Both things are happening simultaneously inside them. That is the part that makes this specific experience so disorienting from where you're standing, because love and fear in most people's experience exist in opposition. Love moves toward, fear moves away. When both are present in the same person directed at the same object, the behavior that results looks like contradiction, pulling close and then pulling back, warmth followed by distance, the specific confusing quality of someone who is clearly affected by you and simultaneously clearly creating space from you. The contradiction is not evidence of inconsistency. Is the honest, visible expression of two genuine things running simultaneously in the same interior. They love you, not as a comfortable feeling that produces ease and warmth and the uncomplicated desire to be close. As the specific, acute, somewhat alarming experience of someone who found their way past the defenses and is now genuinely present in the interior in a way that the management protocol cannot fully address. The love is real, is not performed, is not the ordinary warmth of someone who finds you pleasant and interesting and worth knowing. Is the specific, particular, refuses to be managed love of genuine claiming, the kind that arrived before the system could intercept it and has been present, however privately, ever since. And they fear you, not you as a person, not your character or your intentions or anything about you specifically, what you represent, what having you matter to them makes possible. The specific, old, written in the nervous system fear of genuine attachment, producing genuine vulnerability, producing the specific pain that the wound always predicted genuine vulnerability would produce. Both of these things are true, both are happening. And the behavior that results, the advance and retreat, the warmth and the distance, the moments of genuine presence followed by the managed withdrawal, is the honest, involuntary expression of two simultaneous interior realities that have not been resolved and are not easily resolvable. Why you specifically? The avoidant does not love and fear everyone they encounter. Does not find most people special in the specific, interior claimed, refuses to be managed way that this dynamic refers to. Most people the avoidant encounters are processed by the management protocol with reasonable efficiency. The warmth is present or absent, the interest is real or not, the connection is adequate or insufficient. And the system assesses, manages, maintains the preferred configuration and continues. You produce something different, not through strategy, not through the calculated deployment of qualities designed to bypass the defense, through the specific, genuine, unperformed quality of being who you actually are in a way that the defense was not specifically configured to manage. Something about the combination, the depth of your perception, the quality of your presence, the specific way you were with them that was different from how most people are found the gap in the defenses, not forcibly, the way light finds a gap rather than the way a battering ram finds a wall. Simply you were genuinely, completely yourself, and that genuineness reached something the system had not been specifically protecting. And once something genuinely reaches the interior, once the claiming happens, once the attachment forms past the threshold where the management protocol can address it, the system is in territory it was not designed to navigate. Because the management protocol handles ordinary connection well, handles the approach of people who want something from the avoidant, whose presence activates the cost calculation, whose warmth carries the implicit requiring that the alarm was built to respond to. The protocol is sophisticated and practiced and genuinely effective in those contexts. But it was not built to handle genuine claiming, was not designed for the experience of someone getting through not because they pushed past the walls, but because they arrived in a way the walls were not covering. And in the experience of genuine claiming, the protocol's tools are insufficient. The distance creation does not resolve the attachment. The narrative construction does not hold against the memory. The self-sufficiency that usually restores the preferred configuration finds itself quieter than it used to be in ways that the protocol cannot fully address. You are special to them in the specific, honest, not as a compliment but as a psychological fact sense that you produced this in them, that the claiming happened. That the love is present and the fear is present, and neither is responding to the management tools with the efficiency that ordinary connection responds to those tools. What the fear is protecting. The fear that runs alongside the love is not irrational, is not the absence of logic. Is the perfectly coherent response of a system that learned, before it had language for the learning, a specific and foundational lesson about what genuine attachment produces. The lesson was not that love is bad, was more specific than that. Was that genuine need, the specific, acute, cannot be self-provided quality of actually needing a particular person's particular presence for the quality of your experience, leads to a specific kind of pain that the system classified as among the most dangerous available. the pain of needing something from someone specific and not receiving it, of being genuinely dependent on another person's presence or warmth or acknowledgement for something that matters and finding that the dependence was not met with consistent availability, of having made oneself genuinely vulnerable in the specific way that genuine attachment always requires and finding that the vulnerability produced the specific hurt of an attachment need going unmet. This lesson was experiential, was not taught abstractly, was lived in the body, in the nervous system, in the specific pre-language experience of a child whose genuine attachment needs were met inconsistently enough that the system drew the conclusion genuine attachment produces this kind of pain, better not to allow genuine attachment. Better to build the architecture that prevents the attachment from forming past the threshold where its potential loss would be this kind of costly. The architecture was built, has been maintained, has been remarkably effective at preventing the specific pain it was designed to prevent, and then you arrived, and the architecture was insufficient, the claiming happened. The attachment formed past the threshold. The system is now in the position it was specifically built to avoid, genuinely attached to a specific person whose absence would cost something real. The fear is protecting against the pain that genuine attachment, from the system's perspective, makes possible, is not protecting against you specifically. Is protecting against the vulnerability that loving you has produced, against the specific, acute, cannot be managed away exposure of having allowed someone to matter enough that their loss would be genuinely costly. That protection is not malicious, is not a choice. Is the system doing what it was built to do in response to the conditions that have developed genuine attachment having formed, the system responding to the genuine attachment with the fear response that genuine attachment has always activated? What being thought of as special actually means. The avoidant thinks you are special, this is real. Is not the ordinary way the word gets used in the context of someone being valued, is specific. It means you are not ordinary to them in the way that most people are ordinary, not in the sense of being impressive or accomplished or objectively remarkable by any external measure, in the sense of being particular. Of having the specific, irreducible, only you quality of someone whose presence produces something in their interior that is not produced by the general availability of human connection. This particularity is what makes you genuinely difficult to replace. The avoidant who has managed previous connections through the standard sequence, distance, diminishment, the gradual recession of the specific person into the vague residue of someone who was once significant, finds that sequence less effective with you, finds the specific person not receding into the expected vagueness, finds the comparison that new connections produce consistently unflattering to those connections, not because those connections are insufficient by any objective measure, because they are not you, and you are specific, and specific things cannot be addressed by the general. The management protocol can manage the general, cannot manage the particular in the same way. Being thought of as special by an avoidant is also, honestly, partly a burden, because the specialness, the specific, genuine, you specifically quality of what has been claimed in their interior is what makes the love real and what makes the fear acute. If you were ordinary to them, the love would be more manageable and the fear would be less present. The specialness is what made both the love and the fear what they are. You are thought of as special because you produced something genuine, because the claiming happened, because something about who you actually are reached the interior in a way that the defense could not fully prevent. And the specialness is held in the private, unacknowledged management protocol attempting to contain form, that the avoidance interior holds most things that are genuinely significant. The specific way love and fear express themselves together. When love and fear are simultaneously present and directed at the same person, the behavioral expression is not the simple, legible expression of either one. Is the specific, complicated, sometimes contradictory expression of both running simultaneously and sometimes overriding each other in ways that are not consistent or predictable from the outside. The love expresses in the genuine warmth that surfaces in the unguarded moments, in the specific quality of attention that you receive that is different from the attention most people receive. In the remembered details, the orientation toward you in shared spaces, the tenderness that surfaces when the management protocol is sufficiently reduced. In the fact of the claiming itself, the ongoing, refuses to be resolved presence of you in the interior of someone whose management protocol has been working to resolve it and has not fully succeeded. The fear expresses in the retreat that follows the advance, in the cooling that arrives after a moment of genuine closeness, in the specific, narrative constructing, distance-creating behavior that the management protocol deploys when the love has produced more vulnerability than the system can comfortably sustain. In the deactivating strategies, the magnification of incompatibilities, the idealization of alternatives, the staying busy, the forward motion that stays ahead of the feeling that the system generates when the cost calculation runs and produces the familiar recommendation for distance. Both are genuine, both are expressions of what is actually present in the interior. And the person receiving this combination, experiencing the love and then the fear's expression, the advance and then the retreat, the warmth and then the managed distance, is receiving something that is simultaneously real and insufficient, genuinely meaningful and genuinely unsustaining, actually significant and not consistently available. That combination is the honest reality of being loved and feared by an avoidant, is not the simple, unambiguous experience of being genuinely valued, is the complicated, specific, requires honest navigation experience of being genuinely claimed by someone whose system has not yet found a way to hold what was genuinely felt. What you do with being special to them. Being special to the avoidant, being genuinely loved and genuinely feared, being the specific person whose presence produced the claiming that the management protocol has been unable to fully resolve, does not obligate a particular response, does not obligate waiting for the fear to reduce, does not obligate making yourself available indefinitely for the love to find its way to expression, does not obligate organizing your life around the specific, private, interior reality of someone who thinks you're special, but has not yet found the capacity to express that specialness in a form that actually reaches you consistently. What it does is provide accurate information. The love is real, the fear is real, the specialness is genuine, your perception of what was there was not wrong, you were not alone in what you felt, the connection was mutual in a way that the behavior sometimes made difficult to trust. That accuracy is worth having, worth receiving clearly. Worth holding without the inflation that hope can produce or the deflation that the behavior's insufficiency can produce. Simply, accurately, the love is real and the fear is also real and both are present and both are genuine and neither resolves the practical question of whether what is between you is something that can be lived in. The practical question is answered by what the avoidant does with the love and the fear, whether the love produces the genuine motivation for the work that would make it more consistently expressible. Whether the fear is engaged with at the level where it actually lives, the nervous system, the body, the precognitive alarm that fires when intimacy deepens, or whether it continues to be managed through the distance creation that produces the specific, familiar, costs something real cycle of advance and retreat. You are special to them. That is real. And your life, the actual, present, genuinely inhabitable life that exists independently of being special to someone who is not yet fully capable of expressing it, is also real. And both of those things are true simultaneously, and only one of them is fully, completely, without exception yours. The one that is yours deserves the same quality of genuine care and genuine investment and genuine presence that you have been bringing to the question of what is happening in them. You are special to them. You are also your own primary subject. Both of those things deserve to be true at the same time. What it feels like to be loved and feared at the same time. There is a specific quality to being the person someone loves and fears simultaneously that is unlike any other relational experience. It is not the ordinary experience of being valued, is not the comfortable, receiving quality of being genuinely wanted by someone who is also capable of expressing what they want. Is something more complicated and more specific than either of those things. It feels like being held at arm's length by someone who is also pulling you closer. Like the warmth is real and the distance is also real, and both are being produced by the same interior simultaneously. Like you are genuinely significant to someone who is also genuinely invested in not fully acknowledging your significance, not to you, not always to themselves. The specific disorientation of this experience deserves honest acknowledgement because it is one of the more genuinely difficult relational experiences available. Not because the love is insufficient, the love is real. Not because the person is cruel, the fear is not malicious, but because the combination produces a specific, sustained uncertainty about what is actually happening that is difficult to navigate without adequate understanding of what is producing it. When the warmth arrives, it is genuine, is not performed. Is the love expressing itself in the unguarded moments when the fear has temporarily reduced enough to allow the expression? And it lands genuinely, produces in you the specific, real quality of being met, of being seen, of being with someone who is actually there. That landing is real. The warmth you receive in those moments is not a performance you are responding to. Is the actual interior of a person who genuinely loves you briefly visible, and then the fear reasserts itself, and the warmth reduces, and the distance returns, and you are left with the specific, disorienting experience of having been genuinely met and then watching the meeting recede without any specific cause that you can point to? Without anything that was said or done that would explain the change, without any information that would allow you to understand the retreat as anything other than a verdict on the moment that just occurred. This is the specific, ongoing, cost-something real experience of being loved and feared simultaneously, not the simple experience of loving someone who loves you back. The complicated, specific, requires genuine navigation experience of loving someone whose love is real, and whose fear is equally real, and whose behavior is the honest, involuntary expression of both running simultaneously without resolution. Why the fear does not diminish automatically over time. There is a common and understandable hope that time and genuine positive experience will reduce the fear. That sustained exposure to someone whose love is real and whose presence is safe will eventually teach the nervous system that this specific person does not represent the threat that the wound encoded into the alarm's programming. This hope is not entirely wrong. Genuine positive experience does accumulate. Sustained, consistent, genuinely safe presence does eventually produce evidence that the alarm's prediction was not accurate in this specific case. And that evidence does eventually affect the alarm's threshold, does eventually produce some reduction in the urgency with which the fear responds to the love. But the timeline is not what hope imagines it to be, and the mechanism by which the reduction occurs is not simple accumulated positive experience, is more specific and more demanding than that. The fear is stored in the nervous system at a level that predates conscious thought. Was installed before language, before the capacity for reflection, before the cognitive tools that would allow the adult to evaluate whether the fear's prediction is accurate in the present context. And what lives at that pre-language, pre-reflective level does not respond primarily to cognitive reassurance. Does not respond primarily to the accumulated evidence of positive experience in the way that cognitive beliefs respond to contrary evidence. What responds to that level is the specific, embodied, repeated experience of the alarm firing and the feared outcome not materializing, of genuine vulnerability being present and the vulnerability not producing the specific pain that the wound predicted. Of the intimacy deepening past the threshold and the system discovering, through direct experience rather than through understanding, that the cost it was calculating was not the actual cost. This kind of learning is slow, nonlinear. Involves the alarm firing at full volume in moments when the evidence against it is strongest, because the alarm does not assess the evidence before firing, fires first and the assessment comes after. And the assessment, however consistently it finds the evidence contrary to the alarm's prediction, does not prevent the alarm from firing at full volume the next time. What gradually changes is not the alarm's firing, is the avoidance relationship to the alarm's firing. The gradual, repeated, accumulated learning that the alarm fires and the thing predicted does not happen, and that this pattern is consistent enough that the firing, however genuine, does not require immediate action. Does not require the distance creation that has always been the automatic response. This learning, available, real, genuinely capable of changing the pattern over time, is not something that happens to the avoidant through your sustained presence and sustained love, is something the avoidant has to actively develop. Requires the specific, supported, therapeutic context work of being with the alarms firing without acting on it repeatedly enough that the pattern changes, is not passive, is not produced simply by continuing to love them while they continue to fear the loving, what the avoidant thinks about you specifically. The thinking about you is not organized or sequential, is not the conscious, deliberate processing of someone sitting with a question about another person and working systematically toward conclusions. Is the involuntary, unscheduled, arrives before management kind of thinking that happens when something has been stored whole in the interior rather than processed into something more manageable. You arrive in their thinking in the unguarded moments. In the morning before the day has engaged, in the specific, unpredictable moment when something ordinary carries your texture, a quality of light, a way someone phrases something, a piece of music that belongs to a specific afternoon that belongs to you. In the late evening when the productivity that stays ahead of the feeling has run out and the interior has less competition from the forward motion of the managed life. What they think about specifically in those moments is not grand or narrative or easily summarized, is particular, the specific quality of a specific moment, the way you said a specific thing in a specific conversation. The quality of your presence in a moment when you are not performing for them, when you were simply, genuinely, completely in your own experience and they happened to witness it. The specific texture of what it felt like to be with you when the management protocol was sufficiently reduced and what was between you was simply real. They think about those moments with the specific, involuntary quality of someone returning to something that has not been fully processed. The management protocol processes most things, converts them into the manageable, the historical, the adequate summary of something that was. But the moments with you that were most genuinely real have not been processed in this way, were stored whole. And whole things return with their full quality intact rather than in the vague, manageable form that processed memories return in. This returning is not comfortable for the avoidant, is not the pleasant, soft-edged nostalgia of someone revisiting something pleasant. Is the specific, sometimes acute experience of something genuine arriving complete and current feeling in the middle of a life that is attempting to maintain the preferred configuration. The moment arrives with its original quality, is felt with something close to its original intensity. And then the management protocol re-engages and the daily life resumes and the moment is filed again, but not fully processed, not fully resolved, available to surface again in the next unguarded moment. What it means that they think you are special. Being thought of as special by an avoidant is a specific thing worth understanding clearly, not as a generalized compliment, but as the honest psychological description of a particular interior state. Special, in this context, means irreplaceable in the specific sense that matters most to the avoidant's interior. Not irreplaceable because no other person has your qualities in some abstract sense. Irreplaceable because the specific combination of who you are, the depth of perception, the quality of genuine selfhood, the particular way you were with them, produce something in their interior that the general resumption of life and the general availability of human connection has not replicated and does not seem likely to replicate. The avoidant discovers this gradually. Not through a single moment of recognition, through the accumulation of evidence that the management protocol was not designed to accumulate, the comparison that new connections keep producing. The specific quality of absence that yours has, not the vague, ambient absence of general loneliness, but the located, particular, knows exactly what is missing absence of someone who had something specific and is now without it. That accumulating evidence produces the recognition, not as a thought the avoidant has deliberately. As the honest interior assessment of a nervous system that is experiencing the data directly. The data says what was there was particular. What is available in the general landscape of connection is not it. The particular and the general are different things, and the particular is what is missing. Special in this sense is not flattering in the conventional way. Is not the ordinary romantic assessment of someone who finds another person remarkable. Is the specific, psychological, this is what the data shows recognition, that what was produced by your presence was not ordinary and is not being produced by your absence's replacements. The specific loneliness of being loved this way. There is a form of loneliness specific to being loved by someone who also fears the love. It is worth naming directly because it is rarely acknowledged as the specific, particular form of difficulty it actually is. It is the loneliness of being genuinely known and not fully received. Of having someone who sees you actually, accurately, not as a projection but as you genuinely are, and whose seeing does not consistently produce the sustained closeness that being seen by someone who loves you should produce. The ordinary loneliness of not being known is painful in its own way. But it has a specific quality, the loneliness of someone who has not yet been encountered, whose interior has not yet reached the right person. That loneliness carries its own specific hope, the hope of encounter, of being found, of the moment when someone finally sees clearly and the seeing changes something. The loneliness of being known and not fully received is different. Is the loneliness of someone who has been found, who has been seen, claimed, loved in the genuine, refuses to stop way, and whose being found has not produced the sustained, present, consistently available closeness that being found was supposed to produce. Who is known and is also, in the daily texture of ordinary life, often alone. Who is genuinely loved and is also in the specific, practical, shows up in our sense, often without the love's presence. That specific loneliness deserves to be acknowledged as its own thing, not the ordinary loneliness of not being loved. The specific, harder-to-name loneliness of being loved by someone whose love lives primarily in their interior and reaches you only in the specific, precious, management protocol-reduced moments when the fear temporarily allows the love to express itself. What you actually deserve. Being special to the avoidant, being genuinely loved and genuinely feared, being the specific person whose claiming their interior cannot resolve, is real, has genuine weight, represent something authentic about the connection and about what your presence produced. And what you deserve is more than being special to someone whose love primarily lives in their interior. You deserve to be loved in a form you can actually live in, not loved in the private, unacknowledged, management protocol attempting to contain it form that avoidant love most commonly takes. Loved in the expressed, present, shows up in ordinary moments form that makes love an actual feature of daily life rather than a precious, intermittent, requires specific conditions experience. You deserve the consistency that genuine love, when it is accompanied by genuine capacity, produces. The specific, unremarkable, entirely available consistency of being with someone whose love is expressed not only in the unguarded moments when the fear temporarily reduces, but in the ordinary hours when nothing particular is at stake, and the only reason to be present is the genuine choice to be present. You deserve to be in a relationship where being special does not also mean being the source of the fear that makes the love difficult to sustain, where your depth and your clarity and the specific quality of your genuine presence are received as gifts rather than experienced as the thing that makes the alarm fire most urgently. Where being genuinely known produces closeness rather than the specific, complicated mixture of closeness and retreat that being known by the avoidant has produced. These things are not excessive to want, are not the idealistic requirements of someone who has not yet made peace with human imperfection, are the basic conditions under which love is actually livable rather than theoretically present. Are what you deserve not because you are exceptional, though you are, but because they are what genuine love, when it is accompanied by genuine capacity, actually looks and feels like. The avoidant loves you, fears you, thinks you are special, carries you in the interior in the specific, genuine, refuses to be managed way that genuine claiming always produces. And the life you deserve is one where being loved does not also mean being the person whose specialness the person who loves you spends significant resources managing the experience of, where the love reaches you, consistently, in the ordinary hours, without requiring the specific, precious, management protocol-reduced conditions that avoidant love requires in order to find its way to expression. That love is not a fantasy, is the real, available, genuinely possible form that love takes when both people are actually capable of it, and you deserve to find out what that feels like, not instead of what was real with the avoidant, beyond it, in the life that is genuinely, completely, without exception yours. Why being thought of as special is not enough. The experience of being thought of as special by someone who loves and fears you simultaneously is genuinely significant, is not nothing, is the honest recognition of something real, that the connection mattered, that the claiming happened, that what was there was mutual in a way that the behavior sometimes made difficult to trust. And it is not enough to build a daily life on, not because the specialness is insufficient in some abstract sense, because the specialness lives in their interior and the daily life lives in the hours that actually pass. And the hours that actually pass are not populated by what someone privately thinks about you, are populated by what is actually present, by who actually shows up. By the specific, concrete, tactile reality of being or not being genuinely accompanied through the ordinary texture of an ordinary day. The avoidant who thinks you are special and loves you and fears you is, in the hours of your daily life, largely absent. Not absent from their own interior, you are present there in the specific, genuine, refuses to be managed form that genuine claiming always produces, but absent from your actual experience, from the morning and the midday and the evening, from the unremarkable moments that constitute most of what a life actually consists of. From the specific, daily, nothing particular is happening hours that are where genuine companionship actually lives. Being thought of as special does not fill those hours, does not accompany you through them, does not provide the specific, ordinary, entirely available quality of being genuinely accompanied that those hours actually require. This is not a small thing to acknowledge. It is the central, practical, lived-in reality of what it means to be loved and feared simultaneously by someone who has not yet converted the love into the capacity to sustain it. The love is real, the specialness is genuine, the hours are also real, and the hours are largely yours alone, what the recognition of specialness actually asks of you. Not waiting. Not organizing the hours around the hope that the interior recognition will eventually convert into the sustained presence that the hours require. Not treating the specialness as a promissory note against a future in which the love finds its way to a form that can be lived in. What it actually asks of you is harder and more immediate than any of those things. It asks you to hold the truth of what was real, the love, the specialness, the genuine mutuality of the connection, alongside the equally honest truth of what is not yet present. The sustained choosing, the daily, unremarkable showing up, the conversion of genuine feeling into genuine availability. Holding both truths without resolving one into the other is the specific, demanding, requires genuine self-possession work that this situation actually requires. Not collapsing the first truth into the second, deciding that because the specialness hasn't converted into sustained presence, the specialness wasn't real. It was real. And not inflating the first truth at the expense of the second, deciding that because the specialness is genuine, the sustained presence will inevitably follow. It may not. The love being real and the capacity to sustain it being present are different conditions that do not automatically produce each other. Both truths held honestly and simultaneously produce the clearest picture available of what this actually is. Not the romantically inflated version, not the defensively deflated version, the accurate version, which is something genuinely real that has not yet found its way to a form that can be consistently lived in. The life that is available now. The love is real, the fear is real. The specialness is genuine, and your life, the actual, present, genuinely available life that exists independently of what is happening in the avoidance interior, is also real. Is more real in the practical sense that matters most than any of the interior realities described throughout this entire examination, because it is where you actually live. Is made of the actual hours of actual days that are happening regardless of what is being recognized or not recognized in someone else's private interior. That life deserves your primary investment, not as a strategy for anything, not as the move that produces a particular response in the avoidant. As the honest, basic, irreducibly yours act of being genuinely present in the existence that is actually available to you, the avoidant loves you, fears you, thinks you are special. All of that is true, and none of it constitutes the relationship that your life actually requires. The relationship your life requires is present tense, shows up in the ordinary hours. Does not require the specific, precious, management protocol-reduced conditions that avoidant love requires in order to find expression. Is simply, consistently, without requiring specific conditions, there. That relationship may come from the avoidant themselves if the recognition of your specialness eventually produces the genuine work that converts love into capacity. May come from someone else entirely, someone whose love does not require the conditions the avoidance does, whose presence is not organized around the management of their own fear, whose choosing is practiced in the ordinary hours rather than glimpsed in the unguarded moments. Either way, the life that is available to you now, not contingently, not pending resolution, available right now in this specific present, is the foundation, is the thing that was always worth building, is the place from which whatever comes next is most honestly received and most clearly assessed. You are special to them. You are also your own primary subject. And your own primary subject deserves the full quality of investment that has been going toward understanding what you mean to someone else. That investment turned toward your own life, toward your own genuine becoming, toward the actual hours of the actual days that are completely and irreversibly yours. That is what has always mattered most, not instead of the love, alongside it. In the genuine, inhabited, completely yours life that has been waiting for exactly this quality of honest, patient, genuine attention. Now, you already knew most of this, not from psychology, not from frameworks or explanations or the careful mapping of someone else's attachment patterns, from your own direct, lived, accurate experience of this person. From the specific texture of what it actually felt like to be with them, the warmth that was genuine, the retreat that followed, the specific disorientation of being genuinely known by someone who could not consistently hold the knowing in a form that reached you in the ordinary hours. Your perception was accurate before it had names. The understanding did not create the knowing. It confirmed what your own clear-eyed, deeply attentive perception had already registered. And that perception, the specific, genuine, not requiring external confirmation quality of your own accurate reading of another person's interior, is worth more than any explanation of it, because that quality is yours, belongs to you completely. Is not contingent on the avoidant's love or the avoidant's fear, or whether the specialness they carry in their interior ever finds its way to a form you can actually live in. The depth of your attunement, the accuracy of your seeing, the specific and extraordinary quality of genuine empathic perception that you bring to the people you love, these are not things that were produced by this relationship, were in you before it, will remain in you after it, in whatever form it takes. The honest question, not as a challenge, not as a redirect away from what is real, but as the genuine, worth sitting with question that all of this has been building toward, is whether these qualities are being directed toward your own interior with the same honesty and the same depth with which they have been directed toward someone else's. The perception that reads the avoidance interior accurately, that sees past the managed exterior to what is genuinely present beneath it, that understands the wound and the love and the fear with unusual clarity, that perception is available to your own experience as well, not in the analytical, framework-applying sense. In the direct, honest, what is actually present in my own daily life sense. What is actually present in your days right now, not what should be present, not what the healing narrative says should be present by now. What is actually genuinely in the specific texture of your own lived experience there, whether the hours contain what they deserve to contain. Whether the life that is actually yours is receiving the quality of genuine attention and genuine investment that you are capable of bringing. You are someone whose perception is extraordinary, whose capacity for genuine seeing is real and rare and worth honoring, not as a feature of how you navigate other people's interiors, but as one of the most significant things about you as a person in your own right. You are someone whose love, when it is given with a depth and a clarity and a quality of genuine presence that most people never offer and many people never receive. The avoidant knows this, carries this, thinks of you as special because the specific, irreplaceable quality of what you brought to their interior is something that the general landscape of their life has not replicated. That recognition is genuine. And you are also someone whose own life, the actual, present, happening in real-time life that exists completely independently of what you mean to someone else, deserves the full quality of everything you are, not as a strategy, not as the move that produces a particular outcome. As the basic, honest, irreducibly yours act of bringing your genuine self fully into contact with the life that is actually available to you, you are special to them, and you are your own primary subject. Both of those things are true simultaneously. Only one of them has ever been completely, unconditionally, without exception yours to tend it.